The Companion's Secret at Linden House, Chapter 1. A Suspicious Arrival. Mist lay low over the lawns of Linden House, softening the ancient linden trees and turning the lake beyond the terrace to silver. The great Kentish estate, with its long windows, ivy-darkened walls, and proud stone steps, seemed at that hour almost peaceful. Yet Miss Beatrice Langley had lived there long enough to know that old houses kept old troubles, and Linden House had more than most. She crossed the upper gallery with Lady Ellery's breakfast tray in her hands and a shawl over one arm. At 27, Beatrice possessed no fortune, no influential protector, and no illusions about her place in the world. She was a paid companion, gentlewoman enough to read aloud in a drawing-room, poor enough to be dismissed if she displeased. Her employer, Lady Augusta Ellery, had never been easy to please. "Late," the old lady declared as Beatrice entered the bedchamber. "2 minutes, my lady." 3. The gallery clock is fast. The gallery clock has served this family longer than you have. Then I shall endeavour to win its confidence. Lady Ellery's thin mouth twitched. Age had weakened her body but left her wit untouched. She sat upright against her pillows, wrapped in violet cashmere, her pale eyes as sharp as ever. "Has there been word from London?" she asked. "Not yet." Lady Ellery looked toward the rain-streaked window. "Marcus will come." "Your grandson?" "My grandson has many faults. He is proud, stern, suspicious, and much too fond of being right, but he is not a coward." Beatrice poured the tea. "Will you tell him why you sent for him?" "I shall tell him what he must know." "My lady, the letter concerns his family. It concerns shame, cowardice, and the dead. Families are rarely improved by such subjects." For 3 weeks, Lady Ellery had asked Beatrice to help search old rooms and private drawers for a missing letter. The old lady had revealed only fragments. The letter had been written by her younger sister, Lady Caroline, more than 30 years earlier. It contained a truth that might prevent a scandal if found in time, or cause one if it fell into the wrong hands. Beatrice had not pressed for more. A companion learned early that curiosity was dangerous. Still, she disliked secrecy. Her position depended upon reputation, and reputation was a delicate thing for a woman without money. "You are troubled," Lady Ellery observed. "I fear being misunderstood." "That is sensible. You very likely will be." "By Lord Marcus?" "Most certainly. Marcus distrusts anyone who comes too near his family's fortune." "Then perhaps he should be told the truth." Lady Ellery's gaze sharpened. "Not yet. He will dismiss my fears as the fancies of an old woman. Worse, he will dismiss you as an ambitious one." Before Beatrice could reply, Mrs. Hale, the housekeeper, appeared at the door. "My lady, Lord Marcus Ellery has arrived." Lady Ellery's hand tightened around the sheet. "Show him in." A moment later, Lord Marcus Ellery entered. Beatrice had seen his miniature in the lower hall, a laughing young man with bright eyes. The man before her was older, taller, graver. His dark coat was plain but beautifully cut, his expression controlled. Yet when he saw his grandmother, something in his face softened. "Grandmamma." He crossed the room and bent to kiss her cheek. "You smell of horses and London smoke," Lady Ellery said. "I rode from Sevenoaks before breakfast. Reckless and late. I came as soon as your letter reached me. Then blame the post for your delay. It will enjoy the attention." His mouth softened briefly, then his eyes moved to Beatrice. "Miss Langley," Lady Ellery said, "my grandson, Lord Marcus Ellery." Beatrice curtsied. "My lord." "Miss Langley," he replied. "My grandmother's companion?" "Yes, my lord." "How long have you been at Linden House?" 18 months. Indeed. There was no open insult in the word, but Beatrice heard the suspicion beneath it. Lady Ellery heard it too. Do not look at Miss Langley as though she had stolen the spoons, Marcus. I did nothing of the kind. You thought it loudly. A faint colour touched his cheek. Beatrice lowered her eyes to hide the smallest smile. Marcus turned back to his grandmother. Your letter alarmed me. You gave no details. I wished to see whether affection might succeed where explanation would invite argument. Grandmamma, do not use that tone. I am old enough to ignore it. Then tell me plainly why I am here. For one instant, Lady Ellery looked at Beatrice. The warning was clear. I am unwell, she said. How unwell? Not so unwell that I require fuss. That is not an answer. It is the only one you shall have before luncheon. Miss Langley, take away the tray before my grandson interrogates the toast. Beatrice curtsied and left. As she crossed the gallery, she felt Marcus's gaze following her. By noon, Linden House had changed. Servants moved with extra care. Trunks were carried upstairs. Mr. Pike, the butler, stood straighter than usual. A returning air disturbed a household even when he tried not to. After luncheon, Marcus asked to speak with Beatrice privately. They stood beneath the long row of family portraits in the upper gallery. I should like a clear account of my grandmother's condition, he said. Dr. Greaves visits twice weekly. Her strength varies. Her sleep is poor. Her mind remains perfectly sound. That last point was my next question. Then I have saved you the trouble of offending me by asking it. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. She trusts you, he said. I hope so. Do you handle her correspondence? When she asks it. Her accounts? No. Her jewels? Certainly not. Her visitors? I keep a record when she is too tired to receive them. And if she refuses family? I obey her wishes, even when those wishes might be influenced. Beatrice lifted her chin. My lord, I understand that elderly ladies of fortune may be vulnerable. I also understand that poor companions are easily suspected. I do not object to your concern for Lady Ellery. I object only to your assumption that concern gives you the right to insult me. For a moment he said nothing. Then he bowed stiffly. That was not my intention. Intentions are often less audible than tone. She curtsied and returned to Lady Ellery, her composure intact and her pulse unsteady. That evening, after dinner, Lady Ellery pressed a small key into Beatrice's hand. The blue room, she whispered. The escritoire has a false back. Look there. My lady, Lord Marcus is in the house. All the more reason. If I am discovered, you will say I sent you. And if I am not believed, Lady Ellery's severity faltered. Then I have asked too much. Beatrice closed her fingers around the key. No, you have trusted me. The blue room lay in the old wing. Beatrice carried one candle, its flame wavering as she opened the door. The room smelled of lavender, dust, and old upholstery. She unlocked the escritoire and searched carefully through faded invitations, ribbons, and brittle papers. At last her fingers found a ridge in the back panel. It shifted. Behind it lay a packet of letters tied in black ribbon. She drew it out. The door opened. Lord Marcus stood on the threshold. For a long moment neither spoke. His eyes moved from the open desk to the letters in her hand. I believe, he said quietly, that this requires explanation. Beatrice's mouth went dry. My lord, were you sent? I cannot answer that. Cannot or will not? Will not. His face hardened. You are found at night in a closed room, opening a private desk and removing family papers, and you refuse to explain yourself. I understand how it appears. Do you? She placed the packet on the desk. Then take them. Is that meant to prove innocence? No, it is meant to prevent further suspicion of theft. Something shifted in his expression, though he remained stern. "What were you seeking?" "A letter." "What letter?" "I cannot say." "Miss Langley, you are either remarkably loyal or remarkably practiced." The insult struck sharply. Beatrice stood very straight. "My lord, I am a paid companion. I own 2 serviceable gowns, 1 good shawl, and a box of family letters. I cannot afford even the appearance of dishonesty. You may think me foolish or secretive, but do not imagine I would risk my livelihood for the contents of an old escritoire unless I had a reason beyond greed." His anger faltered. "Then give me the reason." "I promised not to." "To my grandmother." She said nothing. "That is answer enough." He entered and closed the door. "How long has she had you searching?" 3 weeks. "For what?" "A letter she believes may prevent a scandal." "What scandal?" "She has not told me." Marcus took up the packet and untied the ribbon. "Then we begin here." The letters were old, written in a woman's hand. They spoke of secrecy, a child, a quarrel, and someone named Caroline. No single page explained all, but unease gathered with every line. Then footsteps sounded outside. Marcus extinguished the candle and drew Beatrice behind a screen. The door opened. A man entered carrying a candle. Beatrice recognized him from Lady Ellery's descriptions, Mr. Lionel Vale, Lady Ellery's nephew by marriage. He was handsome, fair, and smiling in a manner that made kindness seem rehearsed. He crossed directly to the escritoire, saw it open, and froze. Now, he murmured. "Who has been before me?" Marcus stepped out. "Good evening, Cousin Lionel." Lionel started, then smiled. "Marcus, I arrived late and did not wish to disturb the household." "So you came to a locked room?" "The door was open." "After you opened it?" Lionel laughed lightly. "I was looking for an old book." "In the escritoire?" "One forgets where things are kept in old houses." Beatrice stepped out. Lionel's eyes sharpened. "Miss Langley, how unexpected." "Miss Langley came at my request," Marcus said. Beatrice looked at him in surprise. Lionel noticed. "Did she?" "Yes." The 2 men stared at one another with perfect manners and open distrust. At last, Lionel bowed. "Until tomorrow." When he left, Beatrice released a slow breath. Marcus turned to her. "Now do you understand why I am concerned?" "Yes." "And why secrecy is dangerous?" "Yes." "Tomorrow we speak to my grandmother together." She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, my lord." "Marcus," he said abruptly. She looked up. "If we are to be discovered together in locked rooms, formality seems inadequate." Despite everything, Beatrice almost smiled. "Very well," she said. "Marcus." Chapter 2. The Hidden Letter. The next morning rain had cleared from the lawns, but the air inside Linden House remained heavy. Lady Ellery received them in her sitting room, wrapped in shawls and looking older than Beatrice had ever seen her. Marcus stood by the mantel. Beatrice sat beside Lady Ellery, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "Grandmamma," Marcus said, "Lionel came looking for the same papers Miss Langley was seeking. You must tell us the truth." Lady Ellery looked toward the window. "The truth is seldom grateful for being disturbed. Nor are lies grateful for being kept." For once, she did not scold him. "My sister Caroline did not die abroad as the family claimed," Lady Ellery said at last. "She loved Edward Vale, Lionel's father. There was a child, a son." Marcus's face hardened with shock. "My father sent the child away," she continued. "Caroline was told he died. Later she discovered he lived and tried to bring him home. There was a quarrel. She vanished. We were told she had gone to Italy for her health. In truth, she died in lodgings near Dover, alone." Beatrice felt the sorrow of it settle over the room. "The missing letter?" Marcus asked. "Caroline wrote to me before she died. She named the child, named Edward, and told me where the boy had been placed near Canterbury. She begged me to acknowledge him." "Did you?" Lady Ellery closed her eyes. "No." The single word seemed to cost her. "I was newly married. I had position, children, reputation. I told myself exposing the past would harm the living and not restore the dead. Years later, I found the boy. He had become a clerk. Respectable, poor, proud. He wanted nothing from me, nothing but truth. I still lacked the courage to give it." Beatrice's heart ached. "Did he have children?" Lady Ellery opened her eyes and looked at her. "A daughter." Beatrice went still. "My dear," Lady Ellery whispered, "that daughter was your mother." The room seemed to tilt. "My mother?" "I did not know when you came to me. Not at first. Your name stirred memory. Your face did the rest. I made inquiries. Quietly. I became certain." Beatrice rose and moved to the window, needing air. Her mother, Anne Langley, had died when Beatrice was 12. She had been gentle, practical, and fond of old songs. She had never spoken of noble blood. Beatrice's grandfather, Thomas, had been a clerk in Canterbury. Quiet, proud, kind. He had kept a miniature of an unknown young woman, but no one had explained it. And now Lady Ellery was telling her he had been Lady Caroline's hidden son. "Why did you not tell me?" Beatrice asked. Lady Ellery's voice trembled. "Because I wanted you to care for me before you had reason to hate me." The confession pierced Beatrice more deeply than any defence could have done. Marcus looked shaken. "Where was the letter last kept?" "In your grandfather's library desk, but after his death papers were moved. I thought it might be in the blue room. There is one other place." "Where?" "The west attic, Caroline's cedar chest." Beatrice turned from the window. "Then we must search it." Marcus nodded. "You rest, Grandmamma. Miss Langley and I will go." The west attic was long, low, and crowded with abandoned furniture, old trunks, rolled carpets, screens and hat boxes. A round window admitted a narrow shaft of light. Marcus carried a lantern, though morning lay beyond the roof. They searched in silence. Beatrice's thoughts were unsettled. She did not feel elevated by the discovery. She felt grieved. Her grandfather had been denied his mother. Lady Caroline had been denied her child. Her own mother had lived and died without knowing. "Beatrice," Marcus said quietly. She turned. "I owe you more apology than I can express." "Perhaps apology is not enough." "No," he said, "it is not." His directness surprised her. "I judged you because of your position," he continued. "I saw dependence and suspected ambition. That was unjust." "Yes," she said softly. "It was." He accepted the rebuke without defense. "I learned suspicion early," he said. "My father was careless. My uncle was worse. People came near our family for money, influence, advantage. I thought distrust made me wise. It may have made you careful. It did not make you fair." "No." Beatrice looked away, unsettled by his humility. "Let us find the chest." They found it behind a dressing screen. Dark cedar wood, with tarnished brass hinges. The third key Lady Ellery had given Beatrice opened it. Inside lay folded muslin gowns, a cracked fan, dried flowers wrapped in paper, and a miniature portrait. Beatrice lifted it with trembling fingers. The young woman in the painting had bright eyes, warm colour, and the same curve of mouth Beatrice remembered in her mother. "Lady Caroline," Marcus said. Beneath the gowns lay a writing case. Its visible compartments were empty, but Beatrice noticed the lining had loosened. "There." Marcus lifted the lining. Beneath it lay a folded letter, brittle with age. He opened it carefully. "My dear Augusta," he read. Lady Caroline's words were faded but clear. She named her son Thomas. She named Edward Vale as his father. She gave the place near Canterbury where the child had been sent. She begged her sister to tell him one day that he had not been unwanted. Beatrice turned away before Marcus finished. Her grandfather had been wanted. The knowledge was comfort and wound together. Marcus folded the letter. "We have it." A soft sound came from behind the trunks. Lionel stepped into view, brushing dust from his sleeve. "How moving," he said. "A family reunion among cobwebs." Marcus rose. "You followed us. I anticipated you." Lionel's gaze fixed on the letter. "Give that to me." "No." "My dear Marcus, consider carefully. That paper will distress your grandmother, stain the family, and encourage certain persons to imagine themselves entitled to more than their station." His eyes slid toward Beatrice. Marcus stepped slightly before her. "Do not insult her." Lionel smiled. "Ah, gallantry. Miss Langley is skilled indeed." Beatrice's cheeks burned, but she met his gaze. "I want nothing from this family." "Then you are lying or a fool." Marcus moved angrily, but Beatrice touched his arm. "No," she said. Lionel turned back to Marcus. "Destroy the letter. Let the dead rest. Miss Langley may leave quietly with a generous settlement." "And if I refuse? Then I shall tell every neighbour in Kent that Miss Langley manipulated a dying woman, invented a family connection, and compromised herself with you in locked rooms and attics to secure protection." The words struck exactly where he intended. Beatrice's livelihood, reputation, and future could all be ruined by such a whisper. Marcus's voice turned cold. "You would destroy an innocent woman to protect your father's name." "To protect the family name." "No, to protect your comfort." Lionel's pleasantness vanished. Families survive because unpleasant truths are managed. Families rot because men like you call cowardice management. Lionel smiled thinly. "Keep your letter. Let us see whose story is believed." He bowed and left. For several seconds, Beatrice could not speak. Marcus turned to her. "I will not permit him to harm you." "You may not be able to prevent it." "I can." "How? By declaring me truthful. He will say you are deceived. By defending my honour. He will ask why you are so invested in it. Truth does not always protect women like me." "It should." "That is a gentleman's answer. It belongs to the world as it ought to be." "And what belongs to the world as it is?" "That I must leave before he speaks." Marcus looked stricken. "You would go?" "I have had to be practical all my life." "And justice?" "Justice is a luxury when one needs references." He had no reply. That silence told Beatrice he was beginning to understand. They brought the letter to Lady Ellery. The old woman read it once, then again, her hand pressed to her mouth. "My poor Caroline," she whispered. Marcus told her of Lionel's threat. Lady Ellery's tears vanished. "Then we shall have him to dinner." Beatrice stared. "My lady?" "And the vicar. And Sir Henry Ashcombe. And Mrs. Harcourt." "Mrs. Harcourt?" Marcus asked. "She spreads gossip faster than fever. We may as well employ her for truth." Beatrice shook her head. "You cannot expose this for my sake." "It is not only for your sake. It will wound you." "It has wounded me for 30 years. Speaking of it will merely let the air reach the injury." "People will talk. People always talk. Let them talk over truth rather than lies." Marcus looked at Beatrice. "Nothing concerning your connection need be said without your consent." The care in that distinction moved her. Beatrice thought of her mother, her grandfather, and Lady Caroline dying alone, begging that her child be acknowledged. She thought of silence protecting pride and punishing the innocent. "No," she said at last. "If it is told, let it be told rightly." Lady Ellery held out her hand. Beatrice took it. "My brave girl," the old woman whispered. Chapter 3. A Public Choice. The dinner took place 2 evenings later. Linden House had seldom looked more elegant or more dangerous. Candles blazed upon polished mahogany and silver. Rain tapped softly at the long windows. Lady Ellery came down in black silk with diamonds at her throat, frail yet formidable. Beatrice wore her best grey gown. Lady Ellery had insisted upon lending her a lace fichu. "You shall not go into battle looking like a governess in mourning," she had said. Marcus found Beatrice in the drawing-room before the guests assembled. "You are pale," he said. "I am composed." "That is not the same." "No." His voice lowered. "Whatever happens, you will not stand alone." She wanted not to need the promise. She was grateful for it all the same. The vicar, Mr. Ames, arrived first, solemn and kind. Sir Henry Ashcombe, the neighbouring landowner, followed. Mrs. Harcourt came glittering with curiosity, her turban feathers trembling with every glance. Lionel entered last, smiling as though he had never threatened anyone in an attic. Dinner began with painful civility. Lionel praised the soup, complimented Mrs. Harcourt, and inquired tenderly after Lady Ellery's health. He was charming enough to make malice look like breeding. Beatrice spoke little. Though Lady Ellery had placed her near Marcus, she felt the fragility of her position. One accusation, artfully made, could reduce her from trusted companion to scheming adventuress. At last, the servants withdrew. Lady Ellery lifted her hand. "There is a family matter I wish witnessed." Silence fell. Lionel leaned back. "My dear aunt, is this wise? You have been unwell." "I have been unwell, Lionel, not witless." She removed the letter from a small box beside her plate. "Many years ago, my sister, Lady Caroline, bore a son. He was denied his name, his mother, and his place in truth. I was party to that silence. I regret it with what remains of my life." Mrs. Harcourt's fan stopped moving. Lady Ellery passed the letter to Mr. Ames. "This is Lady Caroline's hand?" he asked after reading. "It is. And you attest to its history?" "I do." Lionel gave a soft laugh. "A touching relic, but hardly proof of anything. Elderly memory, romantic interpretation, convenient discoveries, these things can mislead." Mr. Ames frowned. "The letter names the child Thomas and the place near Canterbury. It names Edward Vale." Sir Henry looked gravely at Lionel. Lionel sighed as if duty pained him. "Since my late father's name is invoked, I must speak plainly. This document, even if genuine, has been handled by persons whose motives may not be pure." Lady Ellery's eyes narrowed. "Say what you mean." Lionel turned to Beatrice. "Miss Langley has enjoyed unusual influence over you. She has searched private rooms, handled family papers, and now appears as beneficiary of a tale that elevates her own consequence. Are we truly to accept all this without question?" The room shifted. Beatrice felt every eye become aware of her differently, not as companion, not as gentlewoman, but as possible schemer. Marcus stepped forward. "No, you are not to accept anything without question. You are to question me." Lionel's smile faded slightly. Marcus's voice carried clearly. "I suspected Miss Langley when I arrived. I questioned her conduct and her motives. I wronged her. Since then, I have witnessed her loyalty under insult, her discretion under pressure, and her courage under threat. She sought no advantage. She refused gain. She was prepared to leave this house rather than expose Lady Ellery to scandal." He turned fully to Lionel. You, however, were discovered at night searching the blue room for these same papers. A murmur moved through the room. Lionel's face tightened. A serious accusation. A true one. Miss Langley and I both witnessed it. Lionel smiled thinly. And what were you and Miss Langley doing hidden together in that room? There it was. The attack Beatrice had feared. Marcus did not hesitate. We were protecting Lady Ellery's interests. How noble. If you intend to imply dishonour, Marcus said, do so openly and answer to me for it. Before Lionel could reply, Beatrice rose. Her hands trembled, so she clasped them before her. My lords, sir, ladies, she said, quiet but steady, I am accustomed to being doubted. A woman in my position must often accept suspicion as part of her wages, but I will not accept falsehood. Lady Ellery's eyes shone. Lady Ellery asked for my help. I gave it because she had been kind to me, because she was afraid, and because I believed the dead deserved truth. I did not know when I began that the matter concerned my own family. She looked at Lionel. If my grandfather was Lady Caroline's son, then he was wronged. If he was not, then I remain what I have always been. Beatrice Langley, daughter of a good man, granddaughter of another, and ashamed of neither. I ask for no fortune. I ask for no title. I ask only that my character not be made payment for another person's comfort. No one spoke. Mrs. Harcourt lowered her fan. Sir Henry nodded. Mr. Ames looked at Beatrice with solemn respect. Lady Ellery reached for her hand. Well said, she whispered. Lionel saw that he had lost the room. His pleasantness hardened. Very affecting, but affection is not evidence. No, Mr. Ames said, but the letter is evidence of a kind. The parish records may be consulted. They will be, Marcus said. Sir Henry spoke next. I knew Edward Vale a little. There were rumours in his youth. This account does not astonish me. Rumours are not facts, Lionel snapped. No, Sir Henry replied, nor are slanders against young women. Mrs. Harcourt folded her fan. I should say Miss Langley has behaved with uncommon dignity. Lionel stared at her, betrayed by gossip itself. Lady Ellery leaned back, exhausted but triumphant. You may leave Linden House in the morning, Lionel, or tonight, if your dignity travels better in darkness. He rose stiffly. This family will regret humiliating me. Marcus's eyes were cold. This family has regretted indulging you. Lionel bowed and left. No one followed. After the guests departed, Beatrice stood alone in the darkened drawing room. The candles had been snuffed. Moonlight lay across the carpet. Her courage, which had held through dinner, now left her trembling. Marcus entered quietly. I thought I might find you here. I needed a moment. You were magnificent. I was frightened. That does not make it less magnificent. She looked at him. You defended me. I spoke the truth. You did more than that. Yes, he said. I chose to be believed with you rather than safe without you. Her heart stirred in a way she did not know how to answer. Marcus! I know I have no right to say more tonight. Perhaps I have barely earned friendship. But apology must become conduct, or it is only noise. I intend mine to become conduct. Beatrice looked toward the window, moved despite herself. Then we shall see. In the days that followed, records were requested from Canterbury and Dover. Mr. Ames wrote to parish contacts. Sir Henry supplied what he remembered of Edward Vale's youthful connection to Lady Caroline. Lady Ellery dictated a formal account, signed before witnesses, acknowledging the hidden child and her own silence. The scandal did not vanish, but it changed shape. There were whispers, of course. Yet Mrs. Harcourt, having discovered the rare pleasure of being both informed and righteous, spread the matter with surprising accuracy. Miss Langley, it was said, had behaved with dignity. Lady Ellery had shown courage. Lord Marcus had acted with honour. Mr. Lionel Vale had left suddenly, and was not much missed. For Beatrice, the days grew tender and strange. Lady Ellery seemed lighter, though weaker. She often asked for Lady Caroline's miniature and held it while speaking of her sister as a girl who laughed too loudly, ran too fast and loved too unwisely. "I should have fought harder for her," Lady Ellery said one afternoon. Beatrice sat beside her, mending a shawl. "You are fighting for her now. Late courage is a poor offering. It is still courage." Lady Ellery studied her. "You forgive carefully." "Yes, not easily." "No." "Good. Easy forgiveness is often only tiredness in a clean gown." Marcus came often to the sitting room. Sometimes he brought news. Sometimes he read aloud when Beatrice's voice tired. Sometimes he sat quietly while Lady Ellery slept and Beatrice came to know the man beneath the severity. One evening, as the fire burned low and Lady Ellery dozed, Marcus said, "You thought me proud. I thought you suspicious. Only that. Tall and certain also." He laughed softly. The sound changed his whole face. "I was proud," he said, "and suspicious, and certain when I had no right to be. That is much confession for one evening. I have more, but I fear overwhelming you." "Then ration your repentance, my lord." "Marcus," he said gently. She looked at him. The room seemed suddenly warmer. "Marcus," she repeated. Lady Ellery opened one eye. "If you two intend to be tender, kindly do it where an old woman need not pretend to be asleep." Beatrice turned scarlet. Marcus coughed. Lady Ellery smiled into her shawl. Chapter 4. Beneath the Linden Trees. The first official confirmation arrived from Canterbury on a clear morning touched with autumn gold. The record was not perfect enough to satisfy every lawyer in England, but it traced Thomas, Lady Caroline's hidden child, to the family that had raised him, and onward to Anne Langley, Beatrice's mother. When Marcus brought the papers to Lady Ellery, the old woman read them in silence. At last, she pressed them to her heart. "Thomas," she whispered. "He lived. He made a life." "Yes," Beatrice said. "He did." Lady Ellery looked at her. "Was he kind?" "I remember little. He died when I was young, but my mother said he was quiet, proud, and gentle with small creatures. He once mended a neighbour child's birdcage and refused payment because he said captive things deserved at least a well-made prison." Lady Ellery closed her eyes. Caroline would have loved that. From that day, she insisted that Beatrice was not to be called her companion. "She is my cousin," she informed Mrs. Hale, Mr. Pike, Dr. Greaves, the vicar, and one startled delivery boy. "A distant cousin, perhaps, but distance is often the most tolerable quality in relations." Beatrice protested, but Lady Ellery ignored her. "You may still read to me," she said. "Family ought to be useful." Yet Beatrice knew matters could not remain suspended in this odd tenderness. Her duties, wages, affection for Lady Ellery, family connection, and growing feeling for Marcus had all become tangled. She was no longer merely companion, not fully guest, not securely relation. One afternoon, while Lady Ellery slept, Beatrice wrote to her sister. She did not say everything. She wrote only that matters at Linden House had changed and that she might come for a time to think. She sealed the letter and placed it on the hall table. Marcus saw it. He found her later in the library, where rain tapped softly on the tall windows. "You are leaving," he said. "I have not decided." "You wrote to your sister?" "Yes." "Does Lady Ellery know?" "Not yet." "She will call you foolish, ungrateful, and stubborn." "She may be right." "Why, Beatrice?" She clasped her hands. "Because I cannot remain here as though nothing has changed." "No one asks that." Lady Ellery is generous because she feels guilt. You are kind because you feel remorse. His face tightened. Is that what you believe? I believe feelings born in crisis may not survive ordinary days. He came closer, slowly. Mine will. You cannot know that. I can. That is certainty again. No, he said. It is choice. The word settled between them. Beatrice turned away, afraid of how much she wished to believe him. You are Lord Marcus Ellery. I was your grandmother's paid companion. You were never merely anything. Society will not see it so simply. No, society rarely sees clearly at first. We shall have to improve its vision. Despite herself, she smiled faintly. A bold undertaking. I have been accused of certainty. I may as well put it to use. She looked at him then, and every prepared defense weakened. There was no pity in his face, no passing admiration sharpened by drama. There was tenderness, but also respect. Beatrice, he said, I judged you before I knew you. Then I knew you and admired you. Then I admired you and discovered that my life had begun arranging itself around the moments when you entered a room. Her breath caught. Please do not speak from pity. I would sooner insult you again than pity you. You might forgive an insult. You would despise pity forever. A startled laugh escaped her, close to tears. He took courage from it. I love you. Not because of Caroline's letter. Not because of any connection between our families. I love your dignity, your wit, your loyalty, your courage, and the way you make truth sound less like a weapon and more like a lamp. Tears blurred her eyes. Marcus, I know what people will say. I know what I must spend years proving, if you permit me, but I cannot let you leave believing my regard is gratitude dressed in warmer language. She searched his face. And if I say no? Then I will help you secure whatever future you choose and trouble you no further than friendship allows. That answer nearly undid her. Love, Beatrice had learned, was often mistaken for rescue. Yet the truest love left a door open and did not block the way. She thought of Lady Caroline, whose love had been silenced, of her grandfather Thomas, whose name had been hidden, of Lady Ellery, whose pride had cost her peace, and of Marcus, who had stood before the world and chosen honour over comfort. Most of all, she thought of herself, not as dependent, not as discovered, not as rescued, but as a woman still entitled to choose. No, she said softly. Marcus went still. No, I do not wish you to trouble me no further than friendship allows. Hope moved across his face. She smiled through tears. I love you too. He reached for her hand, giving her every chance to withdraw. She did not. He bowed over it and pressed his lips to her gloved fingers with such reverence that Beatrice felt the last guarded place in her heart open. Lady Ellery received the news with intolerable satisfaction. I wondered how long you would take, she said. Beatrice stared. You knew. My dear, I am old, not blind. Marcus looked almost boyish. Grandmamma. Do not grandmamma me. If you had let that girl leave, I should have cut you from my will and left everything to the spaniels. One elderly spaniel lifted its head, then went back to sleep. Beatrice laughed. The engagement was not without talk. Some neighbours called the match romantic, others called it imprudent. A few whispered that Miss Langley had done very well for a companion, until Mrs. Harcourt, fierce in her new loyalty, observed that dignity was not manipulation, and love was not theft. Marcus did not answer every whisper. He simply stood beside Beatrice everywhere, at church, in the village, before tenants, tradesmen, neighbours and relations. Not possessively, not as a rescuer displaying charity, simply as a man who had made his choice and saw no reason to disguise it. That steadiness did more than speeches. Lady Ellery lived to see them married. It was a bright September morning when Beatrice walked into the little stone church near Linden House. Late roses filled the air with sweetness. Sunlight fell through the windows in golden bars. Her sister wept openly from the front pew. Mrs. Hale pretended not to cry and failed. Mrs. Harcourt wore another ambitious turban and dabbed her eyes with great ceremony. Beatrice wore ivory muslin and a veil of old lace that had belonged to Lady Caroline. At her throat hung a small locket. On one side was a copy of Caroline's miniature, on the other a curl of her mother's hair. Lady Ellery sat near the front, wrapped in silver silk, frail but triumphant. Marcus waited at the altar. When he saw Beatrice, his expression held no suspicion, no guardedness, no remnant of the man who had first looked at her as though she were a danger. He looked at her as though she were truth long hidden and dearly found. The vows were spoken. The ring slid onto her finger. The church filled with warmth, whispers, and the rustle of joy. After the service, Lady Ellery summoned Beatrice. "You are happy?" the old woman demanded. "Yes," Beatrice whispered. "Good. Do not become meek merely because you are married." Marcus, overhearing, said gravely, "I shall discourage it at every opportunity." "You had better." Lady Ellery took Beatrice's hand. Her fingers were thin and cool. "I loved Caroline," she said softly. "Badly, perhaps, too quietly. But I loved her." "I know." "She would have loved you." Beatrice bent and kissed her cheek. "Then I am glad to have found her." That afternoon, Linden House shone beneath the sun. The lake glittered. The linden trees moved softly in the breeze. Children from the village ran laughing near the terrace, invited by Marcus because Beatrice had once said that grand houses improved when children were allowed to make noise in them. Later, as evening mellowed the gardens, Beatrice and Marcus walked alone beneath the linden trees. "You are quiet," he said. "I was thinking of the first morning you arrived." A painful recollection. "You looked at me as though I had stolen the spoons." My grandmother said the same. She was often right. Intolerably often. Beatrice smiled. They walked farther, hand in hand. Behind them, Linden House stood grand and old, no longer free from sorrow, but no longer ruled by silence. The buried letter had been found. The forgotten had been named. Pride had bent before truth. And a woman who had learned to survive by dignity had discovered that dignity need not stand apart from love. Marcus stopped beneath the linden trees and lifted her hand. "Now," he said, "I look at you and see the best thing this house ever kept secret." Tears rose to her eyes, gentle and bright. "No more secrets," she said. "No more that wound." He kissed her hand. Beatrice looked back at the house that had once seemed only a place where she served quietly at the edge of other people's lives. Now it held her past, her courage, and her future. She had not been rescued into happiness, she had chosen it, and it had chosen her in return. The end. Thank you, dear reader of the Regency Gazette, for joining us in another tale of love, intrigue, and whispered ballroom secrets. If today's romance delighted you, kindly bestow a like upon this video. It helps our Gazette reach more lovers of Regency storytelling. For weekly journeys into dukes, debutantes, scandals, and slow-burning devotion, please subscribe to the Gazette